everyone, it's Enjoy English School. I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Minnie.
And it's day 2 of our 2-day article, Staying Connected in the Age of COVID.
那我们今天11月9号了，我们要接续昨天讲的疫情蔓延、拒绝失联的主题。
So I don't know about Chinese language YouTube, but I will tell you, when the pandemic was really bad in America, if you talked about it on YouTube, YouTube would hide your videos. And so a lot of famous YouTubers would not talk about COVID. But what they would do is talk about something very silly, but 代表 represented the age of COVID. Now, for example, the YouTubers I liked, they used to say we have all these terrible problems, COVID, because of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Do you know who the Backstreet Boys are? Backstreet's back, all right. Yes? Yeah, you know that, right? So the Backstreet Boys, 本来 they wanted to...
西城男孩啦，不是
West, man.
Backstreet Boy 中文是什么
Backstreet back, all right. That's those guys, right? So they wanted to come back together, but then COVID happened. And so these guys just 开玩笑 that everything bad in the world is happening because of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. They would not say the word COVID because then they couldn't make money. So instead you had to think of these funny ideas that represent, 代表 represent COVID.
网络的那个 censorship 啊，
Yeah,
会抓关键字，我觉得很可怕。
Yeah, what do you do? All right, well, let's get ready for our next paragraph.
Staying connected in the age of COVID. The sudden shift to these new forms of online communication was not a surprise to everyone. For example, the Cher Ami program was a huge success in helping British university students and French senior citizens beat the lockdown loneliness. Cher Ami is basically a language exchange program launched by a French nonprofit called Oldesy. The University of Warwick connected with Cher Ami to match British students learning French with conversation partners in France. The French conversation partners were older people who would have been both at higher risk of getting COVID-19 and more likely to be experiencing loneliness and isolation. So, in this arrangement, young people get to develop their language skills, while older people get to stay connected with the world at large. And while Warwick is the only university in the United Kingdom that participates, it is part of a larger Utopia program. The program connects a number of countries and communities throughout Europe, providing a way for people to get together online. That's an amazing thing to manage during a global emergency.
All right, well, let's get going into paragraph 1. You know why we're wearing masks? Do you know why?
Because
of the
COVID.
No, because of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. I want it that way. Right? Yeah.
他不想被 censor 啊，原谅他，谢谢。
All right, let's continue. The sudden shift to these new forms of online communication was not a surprise to everyone.
那这些线上交流新形态的这些交流的方法啊，霎时间突然间转变，并非，其实大家都没有感到很惊奇。
Yeah, remember I told you yesterday in 1996 they were talking about this, and I was like, this doesn't really work. But people have been talking and planning for these kind of things for a long time, right?
对啊。
Airplanes are expensive. Now, if you have good internet communications, you don't have to fly to Germany or fly to Mexico. You just use the internet.
I think we still
things.
prefer to fly.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. But little things you could still check in, right? I think that there's like 有利有弊. There's advantages and disadvantages to them. So anyways, let's look at our third word here, shift. If you think of your keyboard, right? 键盘, right?
Yes, 键盘.
If we want to make the little letter a big letter, we have to hold down this key. It's
大
called
小写的
shift.
转变的那个叫 shift， 因为它 shift 本身就是改变的意思。
It means change. That's exactly right. All right, let's continue on to our next sentence. For example, the Share Amy program was a huge success in helping British university students and French senior citizens beat the lockdown loneliness.
那譬如说，我们这边举例说明，我们用 for example， 那他这边就说这个 Share Amy 这个计划曾经是帮助英国大学生跟法国年迈市民，就是年纪比较大的市民，克服隔离孤独的这种。
Okay, so a little grammar here. Why do we have VING for help? Because
介系词
that's right, because after a preposition, we can't use a verb. We need some kind of noun. How do we make a verb look like a noun?
ing.
V-I-N-G. And British just means English. When you see British, just think England. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the word citizen is one of our key words today. And if we look at C-I-T-I, it looks like the word city.
C-I-T-Y.
That's right. Why? Because citizen means city in Latin.
所以 C-I-T-Y 其实在拉丁文里面其实就是城市的意思，跟我们的 C-I-T-Y 是一样的。
That's right. Now, what rights do people have when you're a citizen? Well, you can vote. And that's right. And if you, in the past, did not live inside the city walls, you could not vote because it was very special to live inside the city. If you were poor or you were a criminal, you lived outside those city walls, right? And if something really bad, like a war was coming, then you can run into the city walls to be safe. But one of the worst things you can do as a citizen was to get thrown out of the city. If you were a bad person, you wouldn't go to jail. They would say you can't live in the city anymore.
所以以前界定是不是市民呢？它是会有一个城墙，所以在城墙里面的人，他就会有城墙的一些你的权利可以做。那最糟糕的惩罚就是你会被丢到城墙以外，就是可能跟难民或跟那些无业的人、那些比较贫穷的人一起。
All right, and very quickly, let's look at the word loneliness. Lonely, we can see L-O-N-E-L-I. 如果去掉那个 ness, 那个 I 会变成 Y, lonely is an adjective. And 这个 lonely 很孤独的，为什么？ Because we have O-N-E, one in it. Yeah, boy.
Yeah, 所以 lonely, L-O-N-E-L-Y 的话是我们的形容词，孤单的。那如果这边去掉 Y 加上 I-N-E-S-S 基本上都是名词结尾嘛。
That's right.
Right. 然后这边老师有说很好记，因为你看到 O-N-E one 一个人，所以很孤单。
That's right. One is the loneliest number. Let's take a break. All right, welcome back to Enjoy English, friends, and let's look at paragraph 2. Share Amy is basically a language exchange program launched by a French nonprofit called Odyssey.
所以呢 Share Amy 它基本上就是一个由法国非营利组织 Odyssey 发起的这个语言交换计划。
You guys know this word because Super Mario Odyssey, right? That's Odyssey, 那个奥德赛的马里奥的游戏 is super famous a few years ago, right? But Odyssey is O-D-Y-S-S-E-Y. 他们叫 O-L-D because 这个要帮助 old people.
对，所以他们把那个That's smart though.
I agree. It's very clever, but it
Catchy.
When I saw it, I definitely laughed. Odyssey. I was thinking like really old Mario. He's like Super Mario Odyssey. Yes.
老师应该要去配音的啦。对。
All right. So when we launch something, well, launch actually means to throw. Okay. So, but when we think of the word launch today, we think of like a spaceship flying to outer space. Okay? Because you need a lot of power to go to outer space. So launch is to start something that maybe you need a lot of money or time or work. This is not a small thing.
所以 L-A-U-N-C-H launch 这个字呢，其实我们在很多地方可以看到，例如像一间新的餐厅，它要开幕了，它也会说 launching。Yeah. 那如果是刚刚老师讲的，我们的这个火箭要升空喷发，也可以用 launch 这个字。那我们这边呢，发起一个活动，也可以用 launch 这个字。
Our next sentence begins, the University of Warwick connected with Share Amy to match British students learning French with conversation partners in France.
那 Warwick 这个大学，华威大学和 Share Amy 合作，将学法语的学生，将学法语的英国的学生与法国的绘画伙伴配对 match.
That's right. So when we match, we pair somebody. The pair just means two, right? So we have A and B. We can match A with B. That's pretty useful. Now, I never really used, well, actually, no, I did use language exchange, but it was really hard for me when I was starting to learn Chinese because I learned Chinese, it was really hard for me. But you were really good at English, I remember you told me. You were always like really good at it, right?
Because I started early.
Right. So did you use language exchanges at all?
Actually, never, because I recognize everyone who is doing language exchange, they are not there for language exchange.
They're there to like find girlfriends, right?
Yes.
This was my next question. Minnie and I did not talk about this before. I wanted to ask her because I often see this, that for language exchange, I'm too busy. I can't do it. But I do know people that sometimes need help, and they'll say, Chris, can you find me like a language exchange partner? And the answer is always like, no, because this guy wants to kiss you or something.
Yeah.
So if you were like a boy saying, do you know a language exchange partner? Then normally I can, but those guys don't want to talk with a boy. They want to talk with a girl. So if you do language exchange, please be careful and go somewhere safe.
对，语言交换其实有很多不同形式，有很多那种 speed date， 就有点像是快速约会的语言交换。所以大家如果要参加语言交换，请各位一定要注意安全哦。
Let's continue here. Our next sentence says, the French conversation partners were older people who would have been both at higher risk of getting COVID-19 and more likely to be experiencing loneliness and isolation.
Chris, 你很尽责耶，他今天只要讲到 COVID-19 都会叹气，有发现吗？
Listen, I want to help protect people, but我是美国人and很多美国人一直都没有戴口罩 so it's annoying me. I haven't seen my mom for a long time because 奇奇怪怪的人不要戴口罩 so it annoys me.
这一句的意思是说，法国的绘画伙伴啊，都是比较年长的族群哦，那他们感染这个 COVID 的可能性就更高，然后他们就更容易体验到这个 isolation 被孤立，然后很寂寞。
So when we are at risk of something, that means you are in danger of something bad happening to you. Okay, this is actually probably 比较真实。But honestly, it's probably easier than saying like in danger of VING 怎么样 right?
但是 risk 这个字其实大家翻译上会比较难吧？
Oh, okay, that's true. Risk, in risk of. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Risk of.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at the words loneliness and isolation. We already talked about loneliness. The easy way to remember is O-N-E. It's one, right? You're lonely because there's only one person. And then isolation, I think we talked about yesterday.
Yes.
Taiwan is an island. I-S-L-A-N-D. Now, land, 你应该知道是土地, right? That's an uncountable noun. And then I-S, 不是是, like, hey, 是不是? This means alone. ISO and IS means all by itself. So this is this land with a lot of water around it. It's by itself.
所以要记得 IS 或 ISO 开头的字，它其实都跟独立、孤立有关系。
Yeah. All right, let's get ready for our final paragraph. Hey everyone, welcome back. And let's begin our final paragraph talking about staying connected in the age of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah.
So, in this arrangement, young people get to develop their language skills while older people get to stay connected with the world at large.
所以在这样的 arrangement， 它其实是 arrange 的名词 ，MENT 也可以画底线，大部分是名词哦。在这样的安排下，年轻人得以磨练他们的语言技巧，而且呢，老人整体上来讲也可以保持与世界的联系。
When we develop something, we grow something, but it does grow slowly.
发展。
Things can develop quickly, but when we say develop, 原本的意思 it means grow slowly. Okay? So when we talk about like body development, you don't go from baby to adult in 1 year, right? It takes time. So that's development. You grow slowly. When we say at large, we mean the wider world, the whole thing and not just a small piece. So these people, remember, are lonely and isolated. So when they use share Amy with Oldesy, They get to stay connected with more people around the world. They're not just by themselves in their house.
所以 at large 这边其实就是指说和大部分的人，有点像是 minority。
So at large, it just describes it's like an adjective phrase that just means like to talk about everything in the wider world, not just a small piece.
Okay.
It's a pretty specific piece of grammar. I'll be honest. If you ask me how many times I say at large every year, I might say less than 10.
那比较是书写英文里面会出现的啦，
Yeah.
就是代表你在讲大部分、大中的时候会用
Yeah.
at large， 然后大部分使用的时候也会像我们课文里面一样写在句尾。
Let's continue to our next sentence. And while Warwick is the only university in the United Kingdom that participates, it is part of a larger Utopia program. Man, what is up with these?
他们的取名都很有趣哦。
Yeah.
他说，虽然华威是英国唯一参加 Share Me 计划的大学哦，但它还是规模更大的这个 Utopia 计划的一个部分。那 Utopia 这边应该在玩的 puns 双关是在指那个乌托邦。
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have EU. That's England. That's France, Germany, Italy, Spain. 这个欧洲的团体, right? So that's why they have EU. If we 去掉 E, we have the word utopia. U-T-O-P-I-A. Utopia means like heaven or
对，
paradise.
就乌托邦嘛，
So
就是
it's
最
just
美
like
好的地方。
oldisty and utopia.
又老，然后又完美，哇，他要笑很久了。
I just think they're good names, but boy, these are just like terrible puns.
It's not terrible. Come on.
They're clever. It's just like, oh boy.
Like you can know like what they're talking about.
Yes, that is
immediately.
very fair.
OLD,
There is
老
no guessing what this is
EU,
about.
欧洲。
So in that way, it's a very good name. I agree with you there. All right, let's continue. The program connects a number of countries and communities throughout Europe, providing a way for people to get together online.
刚刚已经告诉你 EU 了嘛 ，Europe 了嘛，对不对？所以这个计划连接了横跨全欧洲的许多国家跟社群，提供一个让人们线上相聚的一个管道。
There are apps that let you kind of like meet people from anywhere in the world. You can meet some real strange people because it's completely random.
Yeah.
Like you just say like, talk with a person. And this is for people that are really extroverted, 外向的, and they will talk to anybody. Maybe these people don't speak English. You don't know where they're from. And you can really learn some interesting things. But I don't know. I personally, like everybody says, like they can talk to me easily. But the truth is, I don't really like to talk. I don't like to go out. So the idea of meeting someone from around the world, just leave me alone. I don't mind.
So would you call yourself introverted?
No, I'm not introverted. I am not shy. I am not afraid to talk to people, but I just don't want to. I'm just not interested in doing it. I just don't want to do it. It's probably closer to lazy than introverted, 内向。
因为 Chris 老师他脑袋的智慧量跟那个能量太多，他不想要随意分享。
哇，好厉害，谢谢。
是不是？哎呀
Thank you. All right, that's our next sentence says, that's an amazing thing to manage during a global emergency.
那这样子的一个方法，我们这边讲的就是 Share Amy 啊、Utopia 这一类的计划，在全球性的这种非常时刻下面，其实能够办到这件事情非常 amazing 了不起哦。
Yeah. Now, we have two really good words here. When we manage, that just means do. But when we manage something, it means you do something difficult. You did not do it easily. So maybe you'll tell your friend, I managed to pass the math test. That means you didn't get 100, you got maybe 70. You didn't do great on the math test, but 你没有考不及格。
Yeah, 所以 manage 这个字其实就是办，就是做的意思。但当我们用 manage 这个字的时候，我们会给别人一个感觉是我们有努力、有经历一番很彻骨。对。
Our next word is emergency. Now, emerge this is an interesting word because emergency is like 经济, right? But when things emerge, it means to come out slowly. So if you think about like you're reading a book about like a monster that lives in the forest and it slowly walks to you, they'll say the word emerge. This is telling you it's coming to you slowly or coming out slowly. But 经济 we know means really fast. You need to do something fast or you can die. It's kind of a weird word.
Yeah, 所以这个字还自己就很矛盾哦，因为它用了 emerge 这个字，它其实是慢慢出现，但 emergency 就会变成紧急的。
That's right. So you look at like emergency exit and you're like, oh, 我走慢慢走没关系。
那你就死掉了。
All right. So there's a little secret to enjoy. Today is what, November 9th? Today, the day we're recording, we're in July still. So we actually record these a few months. So maybe when you watch this in November, we won't be wearing masks. And honestly, I hope you're in school because I think it's better for everyone if we can get back to normal, which is an important phrase. Right now, we're doing lots of unusual, odd, strange things. And I think the sooner we can get back to normal, the better life's going to be.
Yeah, so get back to normal. 老师刚刚讲的就是回归到正常。
That's right.
对啊，希望11月大家都已经回归到正常，回到学校上課。
That's right. And I hope the Backstreet Boys reunion tour never comes back. All right, vocab review. Let's go. All right, everyone, it's time for vocab review. And our first word today is a form of something.
所以一个什么形式，我们就会说 form form， 但 form 它其实也可以当形成动词哦，所以要特别注意一下句意。
Next, we have a noun, a citizen.
代表是市民 CITI 开头哦，注意不要拼错。
Number 3, we have a verb to launch.
那动词 launch launch 是发起或者是喷射或者是一个餐厅它正要开幕，反正一个很正式开始的字。
而且就是用力丢什么。
Yeah.
It's like you launch a ball. Next we have to match A with B.
Match A with B 就是搭配 A 跟 B 两个要互相配合。
Then we have somebody is at risk of something.
At risk, R-I-S-K, risk 那个字就是风险，代表做什么事情有风险。
Next we have at large, which we said is pretty formal. It just means the wider world, the bigger part of the world that you think about every day.
At large 它是一个比较正式的写法，意思其实就是大多数、大部分的、多数的。
When we manage to do something, we're doing something difficult.
那 manage 其实就是做的意思，但 manage 我们给别人的感觉是我们在做一件很难的事情，经过很多的努力跟淬炼。
And unfortunately, we have an emergency. 静吉, we're almost out of time, so let's go fast. For Enjoy English School, I am Chris Gorski.
I am Minnie.
That's not an emergency.
Emerge.
We'll see you guys next month.
Yes.
Next month. Until then, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.